Hello.
Hello.
Wow, that was close.
That was close. I forgot we go straight in like that now. I was still looking at the screen.
I had to blow my nose and I went, oh, I've got 10 seconds. Crikey. How are you all? Thanks for joining us. It's
Thanks
been
for being here.
really lovely to see you all on the chat. How are
Yeah,
you all? Raining
welcome.
everywhere in the world.
Loads of people.
Yes.
Yeah, we got
what
a
am I
bit
doing?
of an exciting show for you.
So, yes.
We weren't quite sure if we were going to get it together because we've been ill, we've been busy, but we have got it together, and boy, have we got it together. I wanted to share some fun silliness first thing with you. It's just a graph I found, but it says that metal bands bring happiness, and there is this correlation between countries in the world that have a lot of metal and their happiness index. Which is just lovely. Of course, they do have a little disclaimer that correlation is not causation.
Oh, yeah, that's the small print at the bottom.
But it was just a happy coincidence. And I think it's more to do with like the prosperity of a country. And if they're doing well, then they have a thriving metal scene.
They have more metal.
Yes. Conversely, though, country music causes a rise in suicide. And this is like this is a proper paper from 1992 that found a real correlation between suicide in mostly white people, not black people, in places where there was a lot of country music. Didn't matter if they were poor or rich, alcoholic or not, divorced or not.
Crikey, did we have to start on such a...
Well,
what's going on?
You've got to balance things, you see. You've got the fun and the happy, but there's always, there's yin and yang. It's got to be balanced.
Yeah. So, shall we do the thing?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about stuff.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes. So we're going to talk about live music in the UK. Apropos of an article that I read, I did a bit of a deep dive into this and the status. It's kind of at risk. So I want to talk about that, and also live events that are happening around the place.
And live events that have just happened as well.
Yeah.
And following that, we've got a song stories for you, which we're coming up. And then we've got a synth of the month. Oh, a personal favourite of mine. What a beautiful little thing it is. Oh, I'm giving the game away. And finally, at the end of the show, we have a surprise music video, which is, what is it?
It's a surprise.
Okay, it's a surprise. Just a surprise. That's all it is. So don't you worry about that. And
yeah,
that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
All that.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun, didn't I?
We very nearly didn't make it today because Breeze. We didn't have a show. We do have a show. We have a show for you. There's a show coming.
Let's start the show.
Let's start the show right now. So, is there any reason why metal makes people happy?
I think it's because the correlation is not causation. They're not really saying that metal makes people happy, but they're saying that possibly places where people are happy and free to do what they want, they end up making a lot of metal.
But metal does make us happy.
Yeah, it does as well.
Sometimes.
Well, it's a chicken egg, yeah. Which way round is it?
Which
it could
came
be
first?
either.
Yeah.
The metal or the happiness. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. What do you think?
What's going on there?
I like a bit of metal sometimes. Yeah, there's a time for that. So this just a few days ago we had the Sonic State EMOM in Bath.
Yes, and fantastic show it was. And hats off. I'm wearing. Look,
yeah, represent.
Hats off to the Sonic State crew. Fantastic job as ever. We couldn't make it this time, but we were watching home live, and it really felt great, didn't it? There was some amazing video switching going on. I think it was Andy doing it.
It was fantastic.
Nice work.
Yeah, it was a really good set. There were, 8 acts? There was Martin Christie, Shia Man, Caroline McClavey, Ben from Elevator, Gun Boilers, Super Frog Saves Tokyo, Technomatic, and Grace Griffin and Andy Vonal, who are often in our chat.
Basically headlining. That was amazing.
Fantastic show. We were all like bouncing.
And also hats off to Technomatic, Simon. That was, I can't believe that was your first time playing live on your own, because that was brilliant. What a brilliant show.
I think, didn't he say he's going to possibly be putting that up on Bandcamp soon?
I'm not sure.
Maybe?
Yes, we will have to confirm that. I'm not sure.
Great.
But yeah, also Gun Boiler we enjoyed a bit
That
of
was
Gabba.
quite a highlight for us.
That's just a blistering watching that room full of people that are always sat down, aren't they?
Yeah,
and you could see them just kind of being blown backwards slightly.
I was saying, like, we went to see him first time at what's it? Spirit of Gravity in Brighton, and it's quite something live, and I was amazed. It really came across through the screen as well, and thanks to Andy's maniacal video switching, flashing and strobing, and the performance was brilliant. So really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was great. Ben from Elevator and everyone. It was just a great show. If you didn't make it to see it, we'll put the link in the chat if you, just in case you missed it. It's worth seeing. It's very good stuff.
Yeah.
And also we had Synth East up in where is it? Norfolk, Norwich.
I can't remember.
Something. So I haven't actually been able to check any of that stuff out because we've been rather busy. But that looked like it was probably a great show. With Adam Buxton interviewing
Steve Davis.
Steve Davis and Adam Buxton together at last.
I hope that shows up online somewhere.
I think it probably is online somewhere. So yeah, that was good stuff.
And coming up,
oh yes,
we got a shout out in the chat from, was it AD Vision mentioning it?
Yes.
There is an EMOM in York coming up. EMOM 17. You can hear my speed at reading Roman numerals there. EMOM 17 at the Fulford Arms coming up.
Pretty good work there. Roman numerals are not...
I haven't practiced it recently.
I mean, you're basically a millennial. I'm amazed that you can read time off a clock.
Yeah.
So, I can
read the hands one and everything.
Loads of lovely stuff. I mean, it's great to see the music stuff, the live stuff alive and kicking. And it's like, especially in such dark times, and we don't want to go into the world as it is at the moment, but it is a pretty difficult time. I mean, it's
difficult all over.
Let's face it, we're having it pretty easy where we are. But music is one of those things that joins people together and makes connections. And if it's from a blistering techno gabba set at like 193 BPM, or if it's a mother singing to her child, it's important stuff that, that keeps the human race human.
Yes, absolutely. I've been reading actually recently about sort of distraction culture and how, everybody knows now we're all addicted to our screens and it's very bad for our health, and how to cure it. And one of the cures is to bring back ritual. And by ritual, we mean, repeated ceremonial activities with other human beings where we get together, we do something together that makes us all feel good. And music is a great way to do that. Live music in the presence of others. And
also great stories come through songs as well. And we're always being fed stories by various organs of the media. They come through, they fit into our brains, we absorb them, we assume they're true. Real stories, though, the ones that come directly from a person to you through a song. I heard a boy named Sue the other day.
Oh,
Johnny Cash
great.
At San Quentin Prison.
San Quentin.
That made me very happy. Apparently, that was the first time he ever sung that song.
It's brilliant.
He just literally found the song, and then his
he got
wife,
it through a friend of his, didn't he?
Told him sing it, and he did. And that performance at San Quentin Prison is the first time he sang it. That's a great story.
It's brilliant. Check that out. We watched a bit of that San Quentin recently on YouTube. We regularly go through YouTube scouring for brilliant live performances, and that is one.
Yeah.
But yeah, all this stuff about live music leads me to this article which I came across about the ecosystem collapsing in Britain for the live music scene here. And basically in 2023, live music was actually booming. 22 million people attended gigs, and yet 125 UK venues dropped live music. More than half of them closed for good. I think that was 76 venues closed. That's more than one a week.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
9 festivals have been cancelled this year, and the esteemed Moles Club in Bath shut up shop in December after 45 years. So like actual institutions are going by the wayside. Yeah. So I read. It's been going on forever.
Yeah. I mean, for at least the last 20 years. I mean, I know a load of great venues in Brighton just disappeared. I mean, shockingly, the Free Butt in Brighton. I don't know if any of you remember the Free Butt. A great little venue. The drummer in the band I used to be in was the landlord. We used to get to practice there for free. But then a pub next door changed hands. And I won't name the company that bought it, but it's a certain Scottish brewery. Yeah, maybe. No, I won't say.
I don't think you can say.
They moved people into the flat upstairs. There was a complaint about noise, and within a couple of months, the free butt was no more. It's gone. I mean, it just takes one complaint, and I believe there is legislation, or there are some safeguards being put in place to stop that kind of thing from happening when a place has cultural importance. I mean, that place had been there for decades, and so many amazing bands were there. Servotron played there.
Yeah.
Crikey. I mean, so many bands played there.
Yeah.
But it's an ongoing
Yeah, and
thing.
there are a few causes. Gentrification is definitely one of them, because venues will set up in a rundown place and then they'll bring loads of people to the area because people want to see the live music. It becomes gentrified. Loads of people want to live there, and then they complain about the noise and the venue gets shut down.
Yeah.
Or their rent gets raised because it's now a desirable location. There are a few other things, though, that have exacerbated it, particularly in 2023. There's a shortage of skilled staff and facilities since lockdown, since all the lockdowns and COVID, because a lot of people were forced out of the industry because there was no work. They had to pay the bills, and some people went into early retirement. Some people just stopped working, so those people aren't there anymore. They can't be hired. Corporate clients have taken over big contracts for things like marquees, which festivals need, and they just can't get the facilities now because those contracts have been bought up. And then there are things like, of course, the cost of living. Everything's costing more, and that includes, from the venue's perspective, artist fees and wholesale beer prices to transport accommodation for touring bands, so bands tour less because they can't afford the investment. And then people are spending less and drinking less, so venues aren't able to recover their costs through the bar anymore. And it's all formed this kind of perfect storm of a dire situation for these small venues, and we've already kind of covered why it matters, but this ecosystem feeds the stadium gigs. You know, bands start out in these small venues. You don't book a stadium for your first show. That's not how it works. And you need this ecosystem where everybody can boost up, not just the smaller bands either, but, you know, sound technicians, lighting technicians, everybody involved needs somewhere to start.
It's weird, isn't it? There are so many acts that seem to have come from nowhere to straight into massive stadiums. Like, what was that we were watching the other day? Oh, it doesn't matter. I won't name names. But it was like, wow, where did you come from? Wow. And then suddenly, 70,000 people chanting.
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of quick success.
Yeah.
It's a combination of talent, but you can bet there's a machine behind that as well.
Well, it's another reason why the EMOM movement is so great, because it's a little grassroots sort of thing where you can get your first foothold. I mean, for many people, it's the first time they've got to do their stuff live in front of an audience.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's so important. It's a really important thing.
This is how we make good music, and the UK is famous for its music and musicians.
To be fair, especially for electronic music, because in my life as a musician playing live, it's always been difficult to get electronic gigs, even in Brighton. That's
true.
And Brighton's sort of like an open-minded, in theory, place. But
so many pubs.
They're all geared up for 4 or 5 piece rock bands, and like the sound guy just doesn't understand what you're handing him if you send him some there you go. There's 2 XLRs. What? Just make it louder. There we go.
Yeah, but I brought all this to your attention because there is hope. There is a way out of this. And the manager of the Moles Club, which sadly closed down, Tom Madicott, he called for small venues to be supported by larger ones. Football gets it with the Premier League. They invest millions in the grassroots game each year to bring through new players. The music industry needs to do the same before the entire grassroots sector collapses. So Music Venue Trust is campaigning for a stadium and arena levy that would see a small portion of the ticket price borne by the venue and the promoter and the agent and the artist, not the fan, go to smaller venues. And it should be a mandatory levy on arena and stadium tickets like there is in France.
What's that thing called?
A levy.
No,
the Music Venue Trust.
So what's the Music Venue Trust, and how long's it been going, and where can we find out about it?
I don't know. I should have prepared a little bit more. Sorry about that.
Maybe we can do that during one of our recorded
Music
sections.
Venue Trust, I mean, I was looking up everything about this, and you will find loads of information about them. There's been a lot of publicity about it recently because they've been presenting this information to Parliament, trying to get the government to impose a levy. So far, they're they're going, everybody's passing the buck. They're going, well, you should speak to the stadiums. They should do it. And the stadiums are going, well, you should speak to the promoters. And everybody's kind of passing it around. But
bit of a Nixie fluff on my microphone there.
Well, what happened in France is in
I was going to say, I mean, I don't believe I'm saying this, but I wish we were French.
Well,
because France has a long history of supporting its
do.
musicians. Carry on, sorry.
Yes, no, they do. You talk about the history first.
Well, I don't know much about it, but there was always a percentage of music that had to be that was played on French radio had to be local acts or smaller acts, and that there was a kind of a support. They're all communists in France, basically. That's how that works.
That's a really good. I mean, the bigger people need to help out the little people.
Yes.
That's how the ecosystem kind of needs to work.
I completely agree. I think it's it's a wonderful idea.
So,
I mean, we used to get FIP over here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can probably get FIP online now. It's a French radio station.
Yeah, you do.
There was a very secret sort of retransmitting. Somebody got busted in the mid-90s. He had a transmitter in his attic, and he was rebroadcasting FIP to Brighton. So we in Brighton you got to listen to French radio, and FIP was a great station.
I loved it. It's really varied and
it's
brilliant.
It's now sort of splintered off into about 5 or 6 different stations on its own, but it was just great to be able to go, right, I'm not listening to the local rubbish anymore, let's go to France.
But we're talking about how the local rubbish is good and we need to support it.
No, we think the local rubbish should be supported, absolutely.
But so in 2020, the French government stepped in and they implemented a 3.5% charge tax on all concert tickets, with the money raised used to fund musical creation, innovation, and the export of French music. Both artists and venues get subsidies.
That's amazing. Is that plugged in?
Yes. I don't know why it fell asleep.
That's weird. Well, I mean, what a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Vive la France.
Yeah. If you want to help, look up the Music Venue Trust. Add your voice. Tell your MP, because it is going in front of Parliament. And I think what you were saying before, actually, about noise complaints, there was a recent attempt to change the law so that if you move next to a venue, you cannot complain about the noise because you knew about it and it was a place of cultural significance that was already there before you moved. And I think that happened in Brighton just a few years ago. So there is movement happening.
That is good news.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. If somebody moves into a massively expensive place next door to a venue and then decides, I want the venue closed down because I don't like the noise.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But I mean, talking of live, I mean, what are we going? So we are you going to be talking about that? Let's go about this.
Live.
One of the things we've been doing this month, apart from just working and getting work and getting money into the house, we've also been building a new live rig. So I can't remember who asked about the live rig, but we do actually have
it was Andy in the chat at the beginning.
Andy. So we do have this, which we've put the link in. It's our Bandmade segment on how we play live. It's slightly out of date now because I've started using or reprogramming and remixing and re-chopping everything up into the Tangerine, which I was very lucky to get to have. And it's a brilliant little box.
It's amazing.
It's so fantastic. So basically, I'm doing things with it I couldn't even possibly have dreamed of doing.
I love
before.
it because he'll be working in here on the live setup, and I'll be doing animation or something in the other room, and he keeps coming in and going, "Guess what I've just done?"
It's fantastic. I mean, literally, I'm putting massive, huge stems into it, like 24-bit stereo stems and chunks and clips. And multi-sampled instruments, and then I made the biggest one I could, and I went, right, let's see if this breaks it. And I just went, how long is that going to take to load? And I clicked away, clicked back. It loaded in less than a second, and I just went, oh, technology.
It's going to change our lives.
Come on a little bit. So it's actually quite exciting. But one of the things we've been doing, shall I talk about the multi-samples?
Yes.
So I've been multi-sampling a lot of our synths for the shows, which we don't have yet in they're not in the timetable yet, but we're
unconfirmed.
Forearmed is forewarned, or forearms. Forearms
we're going to be prepared.
Forearms are better than 4 legs. We're becoming prepared So I'm multi-sampling a lot of our lovely old synths and putting them together and using them just with taking them out. We'll be taking them out and playing them, and it's wonderful how it works. And I was just thinking, how would you guys feel about some multi-samples? I mean, I don't really know how to do it. I'll have to check out how to do it. I have to work out how it works. I've already got some, but they're in a sort of Tangerine format. If I get to work out how to change them into a format that's suitable, first of all, what format would be more suitable if you wanted them? And personally, I don't know if you would want them, because I wouldn't really want to use someone else's samples, but you might be interested.
I don't know.
Fun to play with. Who knows? I mean, maybe. So what format would be useful, and would you be interested in whatever? And so that's the message for our boosters. So I mean, coming back to our boosters. So it's the time of the show where we say thank you very much to the boosters for supporting us. As ever, here we go.
It means a lot, especially in these lean months at the start of the year. It's a bit quiet, and it's hard to rustle up action of any kind, so it's really appreciated. We have this fantastic page well, these are some of the private messages you get, where you get exclusive stems, completely exclusive albums and releases, cocktail recipes, unreleased music, all sorts of things. And
there's loads there are so many stems. I just uploaded the stems for Newtown.
Yes. Andrew W.
asked for that. We've got that up for you. And as I was uploading it, I just went, oh my God, there's so many stems here. We might even need to empty the...
Yeah, I think we're running close to our Google storage limit, so we may have to swap some of them out. But if any go missing and you're like, oh, and you join as a booster and you're like, hey, I can't access this file.
We'll email them to you.
Yeah, let us know. We'll send them to you. But you also get a 10% discount on all of our merchandise, and any new releases you automatically get to download. So I think it's, what is it, £3 a month or something? So it's a lot of bang for your buck there.
Quite a lot of bang for your buck. Yes. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Do drop it into the Discord. And by the way, so the stems for Newtown are up. And speaking of which,
yes, we thought we'd talk about writing Newtown. So
technically, it's a
stories.
That's right. It's a song story.
It's a song story, but it's one that we didn't have. Yes, some songs we have a lot of documentation on. This one we don't have a lot, but we have our memories. So let's tell you about it.
Oh yes.
It came about. I'll talk about the lyrics side of it first, because I came to the music after. But set the scene. I'm Australian. In case you didn't know.
You're what?
I know. I came here in 2008, and I've been here for a while now. But I'm Antipodean.
Don't worry, everyone. I made her watch the entire 3 seasons of Porridge
and
Grange Hill.
That one.
The Good Life.
I've had my cultural re-education. I think it's pretty thorough. Anyway, I had the opportunity through work to go to Sheffield for the first time. I'd never been to Sheffield, and at the time I didn't know what an incredibly storied place it is for electronic music. I just didn't realise that all those bands I like came from there.
Surely I must have said something about the Lead Mill and...
Yeah, I wouldn't have known
Cabaret
what you meant.
Voltaire.
I'd have
and
been like, no, I don't know. I have no context. I have no frame of reference. So I went up on the train, and we were working on a song at the time called The Way Forward. And
I was in a film in Sheffield once.
Were you?
Yes, I was in a student film. I was playing the part of Waldo's Gift. It's a Velvet Underground.
The Velvet Underground song.
And I was Waldo.
Oh my God.
So I put myself in a box and I got stabbed in the head. Yeah.
I'm putting all your skills to use there.
All of my skills, literally all of them. That was it. I was spent. My life has been downhill all the way since. That was back when I was in my youth.
I always liked that song.
Yeah.
Weird. Anyway, I was working on this song called The Way Forward. And I was listening to this demo over and over on the train. It's a really long train trip, and I was writing pages and pages and trying to, really get to the central place of the feeling of the song, and I couldn't quite get there, so you can cut away from it now. But that's just to show you that I had my head full of this song. And then I got to Sheffield, and I met my work colleagues. That was fine, and I was like, okay, cool, this is an interesting place. But then what happened was I walked around at night. And it was a weekday, and I had a little bit of time to myself, a weeknight, and it was completely eerie to me because the center of town was completely dead, and seemed to be a lot of abandoned buildings, but also a lot of new things and shiny things and fountains, and it was this strange mix of like the decaying past and this positive future,
sort of partially completed regeneration project going on.
Yeah, it was really strange. It was like a futuristic city had been built on top of this rotten, decaying one, and I could see things that still said steelworks. I knew about Sheffield Steel.
Very Blade Runner, the whole idea of retrofitting modern stuff onto old things.
Yeah.
The encrusting of new stuff onto old things and the crumbling stuff and still underneath.
Yeah. And I just walked around there absorbing this strange atmosphere, and it left a huge impression on me. I came back and I was telling Chris about it, and Chris was like, listen to this. And he said, write some words. And I immediately wrote words for Newtown, and they just came out. So it goes to show you that, a song that is ready to happen will just happen. You don't have to, sweat over it.
Yeah.
You can see in my notes here, there's actually an extra verse in these notes that never made it into the song, and it gives away a little bit more about the kind of the story that I was thinking of.
Really?
Yes, I had a whole narrative in my mind.
What are those words?
And then there's lyrics for Charismatic Megafauna underneath. So that appeared like 2 albums later.
Crikey.
So yeah, some songs take a long time to come to life.
No, Charismatic Megafauna was on the next album.
Was it on Snare?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was basically a fever dream.
Yeah.
Thinking about a cross between Jimmy Savile and...
Who was the other one?
Some royal or other. We're going there. We're going to dark places. I don't know
if you remember anything about creating the music for Newtown, but it's often when I'm away, you tend to spend a lot of time in the studio.
Yeah, it was very much, I was going for an industrial, I mean, I knew you were in Sheffield, and I guess I must have had a sort of Sheffield vibe, and I just went, bonk, bonk, just that kind of stripped down, industrial sounding stuff. Richard H. Kirk of Cabaret Voltaire always used to talk about the drop presses crashing in the night and these noises. And then everyone from Sheffield who made music, I mean, even was ABC from Sheffield? Yeah, I think they were. They all talk about the environment they're from, the industrial town they're from. New Haven's quite industrial.
Yeah, we should sample the metal claw that picks up the scrap metal and it goes...
If it's safe to go outside with the asphalt plant belching its fumes all over the place.
There are upsides and downsides to living in an industrial area.
There certainly are. No, I think the way the music came about, I might have just been thinking about you up there on your own in Sheffield.
We have a bit of a psychic thing going on sometimes. We just feel the things. We were in sync and it all came together. So that's where Newtown came from. And you now can access these very stems in the Boosters area.
They're there. And we'd love to hear what you have to do, what you want to do with them. And if you feel like it, then drop them into our Discord. So we can put the link to the Discord in and share it with us. And, it's always in the back of my mind that maybe one day we should do something with these, if you're all happy with that idea.
Yes, I've been really enjoying hearing the remixes that people do. It's just lovely.
But yeah, so that's if you're a booster, you're going to get those stems. They're there already for you if you want them. Help yourself, knock yourself out. Do let us know if you're interested in the idea of multi-samples. If you're not, I won't bother. But if you are, I'll dump them on you.
Yes, you shall have them.
Because I was tempted to try. I tried to look today. I did Synth of the Month in very short notice. 2 things happened. First of all, I was very ill last week, and I basically couldn't get out of bed. I think everyone's been ill.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have.
I hope you're all better by now, folks. I know everybody's been ill.
There's been a lot of it about, as they say. And then the next thing that happened was, I was building boxes. In fact, I'll show you the boxes after that. I'll turn them on. Those are 2 of the boxes that I've made.
They're so exciting.
These are, well, you'll see. And then I dropped a lead weight on my thumb, which is still the wrong size.
Get the lead weight.
No,
it's a sash window lead weight. It's this big.
Is it? I thought it was from a grandfather clock.
No, it's from a sash window.
Oh yeah, it weighs a lot. And I was just moving something, and it fell and cracked into my thumb. And I don't know how I did it, but I now have a synth of the month for you. Are we ready for synth of the month?
I'm so ready. I love this synth.
So, thank you for waiting. This is a synth of the month. And let me just, yeah, that's right. And yeah, sorry, I've trailed off and gone a bit mad.
It's all right. You're doing very well just to be here. That's what synth of the month.
I feel like Picard when he's an old man. He's like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. Synth of the month. Engage. The BOOcast synth of the month is the teenage engine. No, hold on. The Casio CZ-101. Imagine, it's 1982, and after years of research and collaboration with Isao Tomita and Yukihiro Takahashi, Casio patents a new form of sound synthesis, phase distortion. Then, a year later, in 1983, Yamaha releases the DX7 digital FM synth and basically takes over the world, with musicians everywhere ditching their analog synths in order to get their hands on that horrible, horrible piano sound. 1 year later, Casio unleashed their digital face distortion Cosmo synth range, starting with this, the CZ-101. Tiny, plastic, priced at just £350, and seemingly a mere toy bow and arrow against the mighty Yamaha DX range. But by 1989, Casio had sold 80,000 of the little darlings, and though the Cosmo synths were intuitive to program, sounded lovely, and were much more affordable than the other programmable MIDI-enabled polysynths of the time, Casio abandoned phase distortion less than 10 years after they introduced it. Is it time for a comeback? Casio-san, I have a suggestion. The Casio CZ-101. So yeah, Casio released this in 1984. Let's have a look at the front panel. So on the left we've got effect. There are no effects on the CZ-101. What they think are effects are the bend range, vibrato, and portamento. Yeah, there you go, effect. And then we've got the programmer, which gives us our presets. And let's hear some of them. So first one's Brass Ensemble 1. Trumpet. Violin. String Ensemble 1. Now, these are editable, although not savable. I don't think. You can't overwrite the internal presets. That's a pretty acceptable sound. Whistle. And percussion. We've also got some internal sounds which I have already done. This is remember that? But anyway, there you go. There's the programmer, and then there's a data entry section, and then we've got the parameters. Now this, the whole synth is basically encapsulated in this section here with these buttons. That's kind of it. So it looks like a pretty simple synth. So let's dive in and have a little play with the CZ-101. So I'm going to find an empty setting. There we go. So it's phase distortion this synth is using, and the way phase distortion works is best demonstrated by, if I show you, I'm going to initialize this patch, and then you press and hold initialize and just run your fingers over everything that might need initializing. So we've got, even though there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 buttons here, this is actually just duplicated. We've got one synth line and another synth line here, and we can choose whether to have line select 1, line select 2, 1 and 2, or 1 and 1, which we'll come to in a second. That's to do with the ring modulator and the noise. But this is it. These 6 buttons control your synthesizer. Simple? Yeah. Really, really simple. Compared with FM anyway. And it's quite ingenious what Casio have done here. So phase distortion works like this. The first thing you do when you're creating a sound is you choose your waveform here with this waveform switch. And we've got a choice. We can have first waveform and a second waveform. So we can put 2 in. Now the first waveform by default is a sawtooth, which sounds like this. FM synthesis and the DX7 uses sine waves, and it uses sine waves to modulate other sine waves to create more complex waveforms than sine waves. It's frequency modulation. High rates of wobble creating different waveforms. This is using sine waves too, but it's not doing it in the same way. Phase distortion is messing with the phase of the duty cycle of the sine wave. So our sawtooth here, that's actually a sine wave that has been shrunk up at one end and extended at the other. So instead of going whoop, it's going whoop, whoop, like that. This is a digital synth with no filter. How then can we do this? So that sounds like a filter opening, doesn't it? A bit. It's not a filter opening. What you're hearing there is the sine wave. That's the sine wave, and it will slowly become phase distorted very, very slowly. Let's speed up a bit. Phase distorted into a saw. Let's make that a bit quicker. Oh God. So the rate for each of these steps, so this is a step of an envelope, goes from 1 minute to 1 millisecond. So we can have very, very slow evolving things happening. There we go. Now we can hear it. So that's a pretty good emulation for an early 80s digital synth of a filter opening. Not bad anyway. So that's how phase distortion works. Unlike the DX7, where you're messing around with algorithms and how to get sine waves to modulate other sine waves to get the timbre you're after, on the CZ-101, you get to choose a waveform, just like you're using an analog synthesizer. So the first one's a saw, second one is a square, third one is a narrow pulse, third one is a sine and a pulse together, and then there's a sort of half sine, half square. So those are our basic waveforms, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's definitely not a synth for tweaking live, because that's what happens there. Those are our waveforms. I've just done a very simple thing here. Once we've chosen our waveform, we're invited to choose a second waveform if we wish. But this is interesting. This doesn't do audio mixing of the waveforms. This cascades between the first and the second waveform. So if you choose a triangle and then a square, it will give you a triangle, then a square, then a triangle, then a square, etc., etc. It drops the sound by an octave. I'll just show you that. So let's choose our saw. I've actually darkened the filter. And the second waveform we'll choose. Narrow pulse. Sounds like an octave lower, because it's weirdly joining these waveforms together one after the other, creating a new waveform. I don't know what it is about the CZ-101 It's clearly digital. This filter is not even trying to be a filter. It's just solving a problem from the early 80s for us. But it has I like the quality of it. It feels a little unstable. There's some kind of warmth in its circuits in there. Also, I've read somewhere that different CZ-101s have different qualities because of certain things inside that need to be calibrated and tuned differently. And if they go off slightly, it can change the quality of the sound quite a lot. So there we go. That's how we choose our waveforms. Let's go back here. I'm just going to turn off the second waveform because we haven't looked at waveforms 6, 7 and 8. So when Isao Tomita helped Casio design the waveforms for this, one of the things that he wanted was resonance. I need a synthesizer that can do resonance. Now, resonance comes from a filter. This is a synth without a filter. How can you get resonance? Casio sat and thought, and they did this. So here we have what sounds like sounds a bit like resonance. Got a kind of a synthesizer, the Moog sound. Clearly I'm being ironic here. But we've got that kind of resonant sound, and the way that's happening is that these final 3 waveforms actually have an additional sine wave added to where the cutoff frequency is expected to be. The sawtooth without resonance sounds like this. With resonance, it sounds like this. So what Casio have done here is they've added a sine wave at roughly where the cutoff of the resonance should be. They've tracked it down, so that's just a high note going in to emphasize the cutoff frequency. And it seems to work. So that's the waveforms. The way we fake a filter is that we unbend them back into sine waves. All of these waveforms are made from sine waves with their phase timings distorted to create different waveforms. We've also got, in DC01, we choose a waveform. The next thing we get is an envelope. Now, the envelope on the CZ-101 has up to 8 stages, which is quite daunting, especially with this tiny little window and these value buttons and cursor buttons. It can be a bit, it's not much fun, but I'll just show you what they do. So the first one is DC01. This affects the pitch of your oscillator. So it's step 1 has a rate of 50. So that means the speed at which it climbs is 50. Whatever they are, 50 standard international Casio units, and then it dives down again. So look at the next step, also 50, and it dives down to 0, which is the actual root note of the tuning. So pretty good. Yeah, pretty good cat noise, isn't it? Yeah, that's quite enough of that. So so step 1 is 50. If I increase the number there, it will increase the speed. So we get, if I reduce the number here, it slows down the speed. So remember, this is rate, not time. So higher numbers are quicker. So so there's step 2. As I said, we can go all the way up to step 8, which is a bit daunting. It can be, but the useful thing about this is you can change pitch all the way through here. So we've only got one vibrato, and it's only connected to pitch, and it's global. So if we want something different to happen to the pitch of each of these individual synth lines, we do it here. So we can... So there we've made a little... So that's not an LFO, that's the envelope steps changing the pitch as we go along. So I think we've dealt with the DC. This is basically where you choose your waveform. Z. If you want a second one, let's do a second one. The next parameter we come to is DCW, and that means digitally controlled wave. And this is basically sort of our filter. So step 1, again, we've got each of these envelope steps. We've got up to 8. So we'll try step 1. That's quite quick, so let's make it slower. So we're starting with the sine wave, which is slowly being bent into the two waveforms we chose earlier on. Step 2, this is again going down to 0, but we don't have to, we can bring it halfway. So as you see, we can have multiple attacks now. So if I go down to fake 2 filter hits, yeah, there it is. If I want to slow that down a little bit more, now any of these steps we can call the sustain point or the end point. So sustain basically means that it goes through its motions, and then sustain is where it will hang while you're holding your finger on the key. So if I turn this into a sustain point, it's holding at 0. If I turn that up a bit, there you go, now it's holding there. And the final step is by default end, always ends at level 0, rate whatever you want it to be. Let's make it slower. And finally, we have DCA1, which is the amplifier. So step 1 is obviously your attack time. Although I'm going through this in quite a linear way, it's always, you can always go back to the waveform and decide I don't want resonant there, I want it to be. Because they work polyphonically, it's possible to fake echoes and reverbs and delays and stuff. I'm actually going to turn up some effects. As I said, it's an 8-stage envelope, and we can choose which stage is going to be your sustain point and which stage is going to be your end point. Now, it's useful to use 8 stages because you get to mess with the stuff over time, but you can also call step 1 your sustain point and step 2 your end point. So yeah, there we have an attack release envelope, a 2-stage envelope. And that works perfectly well. If you feel like it's too much trouble for you, Casio have allowed you to go, I can't cope with it, I cannot brain this sound anymore, I am going to just make it really simple. So there we go, we have made a sound. We've got one of our synth lines done. Now we can do another one, so let's just do that. So that's really simple, isn't it? So I'm actually going to call that the end point. So yeah, I'll keep that really simple. I mean, this is why it's so, lovely, because, I mean, doing that kind of filter cutoff stuff on a DX isn't as simple as it should be. It's quite a complex sort of thing, and although the DX maybe is a little more, flexible, perhaps, this is definitely designed to sound and feel a bit more like an analog synth, whereas the DX7 is designed to be like, it could be anything you like. It's so simple to program. So there's a little sound there. Now we've got 2 sounds. We can combine them by hitting this button here, 1 and 2. when we've got two synth lines running at once like this, we can go to detune and we get some options here. So we can just change the octave of the second one. Also change the note, so let's go to a fifth. And we've also got fine tune. Again, standard Casio units. It goes up to 60. I don't know what it is. I should get the manual out. So now we've made this sound together. You've sat with me doing it. Bless you. Thank you for still being there. So once we've got two of these synth lines running, we can now use ring or noise. So let's hit the ring modulator. It's the strangest ring modulator on earth. It's modulating 1 with 2, I think. And this is noise now. So what noise does is it turns the second line into just noise. And we can... yeah, you can mess around with it. I hardly ever use that though. It's much more interesting to me for this kind of thing. Yeah, we've also got vibrato. So I'm going to actually add some of that. So we'll go to the vibrato. I'm going to choose, there's a waveform. So we've got a triangle, saw, ramp, and square. I'm going to go for square. There are some other sounds I've made here. The sound from the intro. This kind of slow evolving thing. Oh, nice. We can also, there's some buttons here which we can use. So solo turns it into a mono synth. Tone mix allows you to add another sound to it. So we've got this one from the internal. So we can blend two sounds. So now we've got the sound we just made plus the earlier one. So that's 4 synths happening at once. Multiple filters opening and closing all over the place, which is an impressive feat when you consider that this synth has no filter whatsoever. So to sum up, the CZ-101, I never had one as a child. I did play with one at school, and I didn't like it. I was a bit of an analog snob when I was 12. Well, 15, 16, to be fair. I just looked at this and thought, no, I don't really like it. It looks too complicated, and I didn't. Yeah, it looked like a toy. It's exactly the same size as all the, Casio tones that I now also love very much indeed. I found this in a charity shop tipped off by my friend Stan, who told me there's a synth in a shop nearby that I think you might be interested in, and it was £100. Great value. And yeah, It's one of those synths. It's like the Casio tones in that it's inspiring. You kind of get inspired by playing with it. It does things. It has a vibe. It's got an atmosphere. It's got personality. I hope you can hear that it's got something very warm about this synth. And Casio abandoned phase distortion in 1989 after releasing the VZ. Advanced interactive phase distortion synths. But yeah, they abandoned phase distortion, and it's such a pity because it's a pretty unique system of synthesis, and it's simple, it's intuitive. I think one of the things that held it back though is that it's not scalable. With Yamaha's FM, you can have like 2 operator synths and 4 operator synths and 6 operator synths, and any more than that then you're into the realms of insanity, I guess. But I mean, even now there's some FM on some current synthesizers. Basically it's just 2 operators, but with the phase distortion you've got no such ability to scale it down or scale it up. Basically all of the CZ synthesizer range had the same engine inside them, just with varying amounts of polyphony and what have you, and some say with slightly different sound qualities as well. I'm not sure about that myself, but yeah, it's a beautiful synth. I love it. I'd love it to come back. And Casio, if you're listening, I'm sure you're not, but here's my suggestion to you. See this little baby? Now, picture this. Here's a little OLED screen. Here are 6 buttons. Here's a switch for which synth line you're using, and here's all the other buttons around. And on the OLED screen, you can see your 8-stage envelope. I'm sure that technology would fit inside there. Would any of you go for that? Something, I mean, maybe a little bit bigger, but imagine a CZ in the form factor of a VL tone. I mean, Casio seem to have abandoned it. And okay, you can get plugins and stuff, but imagine that. I'm genuinely, I want that to happen. How do I do that? Anyway, so we'll say goodbye to the Casio CZ-101 with one last little tune. Here we go. Thank you for watching.
Lovely. AD Vision just asked an important question. Can you save the patch you just made?
Yes, it's saved. One of the things I didn't cover on that was I had to buy 6D batteries and put new batteries into the cartridge which we bought. And the memory cartridges are so rare. They're like hen's teeth, and it cost more than or the same as the synth itself.
Yeah, I think it was nearly the same.
But I have saved those patches, and if you liked that patch, I guess I could multi-sample it for you. It wouldn't be the same, but it would be pretty close. But yeah, you can save the patches, and yes, it's multi-timbral. I never actually did that, haven't actually done that myself, but you can send out 4 different individual synth lines controlled independently on different MIDI channels. And I believe Vince Clarke used it a lot.
Yes, Chris had said Erasure had a rack of CZ-101s.
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's something really beautiful about the CZ synth, and it's like a phase distortion. I think there was one other synth that used it, and it was the incredibly rare... Oh, come on, chat. You can remind me what it's called.
Casio?
No, it wasn't Casio. It was made by... Oh, it looks like a computer in a big old wooden box. And the early Cosmo synths were actually just a rack of computers, and Tomita actually used them live.
Oh, wow.
And he used exclusively I believe he used exclusively the Cosmo synth, the Casio CZ type synthesis on Dawn Chorus, one of Tomita's albums.
It's such a beautiful name, Cosmo Synth, but also while I was watching that, it's like you showed synthesizer to aliens and they just tried to build one. They just tried to figure it out.
Well, once again, this is the amazing thing about Casio, because it's almost like they were working in a complete vacuum. They worked with Tomita and a guy from Yellow Magic Orchestra, whose name I've temporarily forgotten and passed away recently. I'm terribly sorry.
I've forgotten as well. You mentioned him at the start. It's because we're live.
old brain. But yeah, they it's almost like they went away and they'd never seen another synthesizer, and they just went, oh, let's see how we can do this, and they did it in their own way, and just exactly in the same way as they built their Casio tones as well. So they used consonant vowel synthesis on the Casio tones, which is 2 square waves with 2 different envelopes and different filters to get the different sounds out of the Casio tones. And then of course there was the sine wave disaster where the MT70, they decided to use sine waves in the same way as they use consonant vowel, but obviously sine waves don't have any harmonics in them, so the sounds were always a bit sort of muted and whatever, but they still sounded lovely, but they kind of missed the point. But it's like Casio were just living on their own planet.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally just totally almost like disconnected from the rest of the world of synthesis.
Yeah. Well, Wagyu said it's mad that they ignore all the nice gear that they made in the past.
Yeah.
I was hoping that they had their 40th anniversary a few years at NAMM, and they thought maybe let's release something, but they didn't.
I think when there was something that came out from Casio and everyone was going, oh, is it going to be some kind of phase distortion thing? Is it going to... No, it wasn't. And it seems that technology you could fit that in a digital watch now. I mean... And that surely, come on, Casio, that's right in your ballpark, your wheelhouse.
It's gorgeous.
I can't think of any other metaphors for in your zone. But yeah, wouldn't it be lovely if they did something like that? And also, think of it now with all the new current processor speeds and everything, you could, instead of having buttons, you could have knobs and you could blend between. And imagine being able to do that live, and then imagine being able to visualize that 8-stage envelope so you could just see what's happening. Because that's one of the things that makes it difficult, is that you're having to sort of visualize it in your head because the buttons and the screen are not giving you any visual feedback.
Yeah.
And you're kind of...
I quite like treating that as sort of a sound roulette, though, where you just like punch in a bunch of random numbers and go, woo!
And a randomize button would be great as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there is a way of randomizing the CZ-101, which, if you haven't seen it, I did do 5 minutes on Sonic State, and also there is a 45-minute long video with the CZ-101 where I go in even more detail.
Only on their Patreon, though.
It's only on their Patreon, though. But one of the sounds that came out of that was I accidentally unplugged the power without disconnecting the card or something. There's some kind of weird ritual you have to go through where you don't do this first, you do that first. I did it in the wrong order. When I plugged it back in, all of the presets were mangled. And one of the sounds was just insane. It went on for days.
Yeah.
It was slow creeping, and I have no idea. And when I looked at all the parameters on the screen, they're all like question marks and weird letters and stuff. I'm like, okay.
I didn't realize that.
Come on, Casio. That would be... I'd love it. I mean, like, a couple of £100.
Yeah.
A CZ in your pocket.
Well, a few people were suggesting Behringer's probably soon are going to take up that mantle. AW said they probably earn more from their player performance pianos than that sort of instrument.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Reason.
You're probably right. I mean, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? You get these companies that are so innovative and so groundbreaking, and they're making so many amazing new things in their time, and then they kind of go, I mean, I guess it's a financial.
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
R&D costs money, just like running small venues. It's like the R&D of the music industry.
Do you think Casio? No, I mean, okay. Do you guys you all love the CZ, right? I mean,
There's a lot of love in here. Loads of people had it, and a lot of people had it in school as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you think Casio know how
loved they are?
Yeah. Should we write to Casio and tell them?
Well, there's a Casio museum in Japan. Which it's definitely on. I mean, I don't have a bucket list, but if I had a bucket list, that would be on it.
Well, when we do finally make it to Japan.
Yes, we will.
Well, you've been saying,
one day we will.
You're going to say, 'cause you've been.
Yeah,
I think.
I went to the robot museum. I didn't know there was a Casio museum.
Great tragedy.
Or a pot noodle museum. So there's loads of museums we have to go to. Yeah.
What's on the chat?
Gary G said, "Isn't it the whistle in the EastEnders theme?"
Yes, I think it might be.
Is it? I couldn't find it. I was googling. I couldn't find it.
I think they cut that whistle out sometime in the 90s. But yeah, I remember. It sounds like it's probably the whistle in the EastEnders.
That's interesting because Isao Tomita has a lot of sort of bird song like sounds in his music as well.
You can kind of hear Tomita's influence.
Yes,
there you can feel it. Especially, I mean, if you don't know Dawn Chorus, it's a lovely album. It's about the moment at sunrise and sunset when the Earth's atmosphere is at its thinnest or something, and you get this sudden burst of radio interference from space, basically, and it's called the Dawn Chorus. It's space Dawn Chorus. I think I may be talking rubbish. No, I think
it is that, and it's also the Dawn Chorus of the birds.
And it's lovely. It's got a beautiful sort of floaty atmosphere, and it's very clearly it's all Casio. It's all Casio.
Yeah. AD Vision said about my British cultural re-education, you should watch Shooting Stars. I have, and I love it. Vic and Bob are big favourites of mine, which I never knew about in Australia. Yeah. So yeah,
and we're
national
big fans
treasures.
Of Athletico Mints as well. Bob Mortimer's podcast. Very good with his Scottish songs.
Scottish stories. Speaking of Scottish songs, actually, and Ritual. It's almost Sutherland Tartan. Thomas Yon said, in my family before TV existed, we would sing at the end of a meal.
Oh,
I love that.
That's beautiful.
It's like celebrating the meal. I love food. I love music. Let's start doing that.
It's like just beautiful. It's something we need. I mean, I said it earlier on, but it's music is an important thing, especially in these times, to connect us all together and do all those things.
It's connected to our health as well. We need these things to be healthy. It affects us physically when we're drained of these things. It's like we've been, we need these things for our health, I think.
I just remembered when I was about 12 or 13, our neighbour, it was a drummer, and he must have been in his late 60s, early 70s. He smoked cigars, and his house was all cloudy with cigar smoke. But he had a drum kit, and I used to go around and he'd teach me the drums.
Cool.
And he taught me bossa nova, a tricky rhythm. And he'd sit at the piano, and he'd compensate for my. But also music. We're going back to the 80s here, but music was clearly a part of that man's life, and it should be a part of everyone's life. It's just that thing, the old days. Bring back the old days.
Well, I think there'll definitely be a rebellion. I mean, the people that can, wake up from the distraction culture and the addiction, and there'll be a cultural rebellion beyond that. I think as a society, I've heard people, they're banning mobile phones in schools, all sorts of things like that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But what was it you were saying? So it's distraction, entertainment, and art.
Yes, I subscribe to this brilliant author called Ted Gioia, who's a jazz music historian. Well, music historian in general, actually. He's got a Substack. I recommend looking him up. Gioia, Ted Gioia. And he did this missive recently. He does sort of studies on cultural change and things. And he was talking about the change from traditional slow culture to distraction culture and addiction culture, because basically the tech companies want you to be addicted and distracted. So where we would watch a film in the past, that would turn into like a YouTube video over time. And now it's just TikToks, where we would see live music in the past. We would now, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's TikTok again. He has this wonderful diagram which shows how each traditional activity has been converted into something that tech companies have monopolized and used to extract, your addiction to it. So that you're always on. I got a warning today when I was going to share our YouTube live stream on Facebook. It said this will not be posted to Instagram because it has an external link, because they don't want you to leave. You can never leave. So it's like they're going to become useless to us, these places. We have to make our own places.
Yeah. Well, it's the inshitification.
Yes, it is.
Everything goes through it.
I should just lastly, Andrew Kubachevsky recommended we watch the documentary Made in Sheffield. It's awesome. I will look out for that.
I think have we seen it? Yes, I think we've seen it. I can't remember.
I don't remember. Let's get it.
Definitely, probably almost have. Another documentary I really want to see is the Teachers of Peaches documentary. And speaking of the inshitification of the world, you order peaches and you get Lady Gaga. That's what the world's like to me. So, but I don't know. Okay, Peaches, amazing, sort of. Yeah. Powerful.
2000s electro.
Yeah.
Punk,
queer energy, feminist energy. I was
great live shows. I think my sister got to see her when she came to Sydney, and she actually broke her ankle during the show. Peaches did. Yeah.
Oh right, sorry. But, I mean, either way, you can see she's really doing it. But yeah, the Teachers of Peaches. I don't think it's on release at the moment, but it's going to be showing at several festivals. So
many good documentaries, and there's this festival in the UK called Dock and Roll, and I can't find any information about when it's happening or if it's happening. But
if we find out, we'll let you know first. So
they often go do the film circuit, these films, and then the festival circuit, and then they don't get distributed because I guess, I don't know, people don't invest. Actually, I heard about a really interesting platform recently. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Mubi, but it's for independent filmmakers who want their film to get a wider audience. So the production's really good, and they're like just films that have not been able to get wider distribution.
Okay.
But it's a great way of kind of supporting those up-and-coming artists.
Can't remember
again.
the name, though. We'll work that out.
I'll have to check it.
We'll remind you at some stage. Anyway, I think we might be allowing you to go soon.
Yes.
However, what?
No, we'll let them go. Okay. I was just saying yes because I just remembered we've got a little surprise for you at the end, don't we?
Yes. Well, it's a very quiet surprise. It's a sort of ambient little thing coming up for you, which is a video which...
Yes, I was inspired to make a video for one of the songs off the new album, one of the instrumental songs.
The last track on the new album, All That Rises Must Converge. And that seems like a pretty good way to end the show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been lovely having you here. I'm so glad we made it.
Yes, I'm really glad. We did it because apart from our commitment to you, and we always want to be here, even if we're ill and feel like we can't do it, we remind ourselves that every time we do it, we magically sort of feel better.
Yeah.
What is it, the spirit of the show? Or
Dr. Theatre.
Dr. Theatre, yeah.
But the other thing is that we felt like we didn't have a show, but you're always there, and it's always good to be.
And it's your contribution that helps with that as well, so thank you.
Boxes, yeah, good point.
Oh, the boxes! I was like, they're so noticeable. We've got to talk about them.
I made these.
Check it out. Yeah, it's doing it. Yeah, so that happened this month. They're sparkly as well.
And they're sparkly. So this is a
They actually have even more colours, but the batteries are a bit drained at the moment.
I'm currently draining the rechargeables to condition them. But they are a box that gadgets can go inside and be transported to venues, and then when we get them to the venues, we take them out and we put them on the boxes. We've decided we don't want to carry keyboard stands to venues anymore.
No.
And so these are going to be our stands.
Yeah.
And they'll go on the table, something go on top, something go behind it. So there you go. There's one there. But yeah, there's normally a lot more blue. Wherever it's black, it's normally bright blue.
But they do the full spectrum.
They do the whole thing.
Just at the moment, it's like proper war games because it's just red and green and traffic lights.
Whopper, it's the Whopper. But yeah, my dad gave us his. Thanks, Dad. He gave us his dead television, and we cannibalized it, and we took out the what's it called? There's a sort of dichroic, weird diffraction layer lens thing. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's like a lens that bends things sideways, and we chopped it up and stuck it in front, so you can't really see.
You can when you turn it.
You can sort of see when you turn
it.
But all kinds of strange things happen with the lights actually go on top of each other and smear out sideways. And
It's
it's
hypnotic.
quite visually interesting, and it looks deeper than it is,
Yeah.
like we do.
Yeah. Do we? Oh, good.
I don't know. Anyway, so that's BOOcast number 21. Thank you very much for
Thank you
joining
for
us.
being here.
We're going to be back in March.
It's March now.
It's March now.
Yes. We'll be back in April.
Oh, crikey. What's happening?
April.
What's happening to
And
this
we'll
year?
have more stuff for you.
Yeah. Keep us posted. If you get any remixes together,
Yeah.
drop them in
Join
the
us on the Discord.
Become a booster, get all that stuff.
And if there's like anything you want to talk about as well, let us know.
Let us know.
We'll share it on the show.
Yeah, because we're out of ideas.
Yeah, we've been
No, we're
working
not.
so hard. I wasn't sure if, but yeah, we're always doing stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, it's time to say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks for joining us, and take care. And we hope you have a lovely, restful, peaceful, and beautiful March.
Go well and be well.
Take care. Bye bye.